Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Krishna Mukherjee from the Economic Times Edge, and it gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to this live webinar on Accelerate Innovation and Transformation with Cloud, powered by IBM. This webinar is brought to you by the Economic Times Edge in association with IBM. Yes, digital transformation is the buzzword today, and with that, we want to cherry pick the best digital right for us. We want to get into a cloud platform that serves us better. With today's increasing sophistication of multi-cloud IT environments, we often face the need to integrate across cloud and on-prem domains, bringing apps and data together to power business initiatives. We want an architecture that can modernize and extend existing applications, smoothing our journey to cloud. In addition to that, with the advent of artificial intelligence, we want a cloud designed to accelerate innovation with our data on or off premises. In a nutshell, we are on the lookout for an architecture that can create new insights with new technologies like machine learning, IoT, and AI, and also which is more secure and trusted cloud architect. With this, let me hand it over to Mr. Navjot Bhogal. He is Chief Architect, IBM System Unit, Software India Lab, IBM Executive Architect, member of the IBM Academy of Technology. And also to my audience, I would request everybody to be present till the end of the webinar, and also please visit webinar website for detailed terms and conditions. Also keep on tweeting and tag ET-Edge. Thank you. Over to you, Mr. Bogle, if we can get started with your presentation first.
Thank you, Krishna. Thanks for this opportunity. And I do want to thank all of the participants on the call for taking them out of the busy days to walk through with us on our point of view on accelerating digital and accelerating innovation through the cloud.
Sorry, Mr. Bogle, your voice is feeble. Can you speak a bit louder?
Is this any better?
Yeah, this is better.
Okay. All right, thank you. Yeah. So the next hour, we will go through some examples of how digital transformation is taking place on the IBM Cloud. We will go through some customer stories as well, and we'll have a high-level overview on the platform pitch. And if you do stay till the end, I think there is an offer from IBM as well in terms of how we can help and what IBM can help accelerate or get you started on a journey towards transformation and innovation using cloud. So that being said, let me get started with the presentation. Krishna, I'm not able to move these slides.
Yeah, just checking it. Yeah,
Okay.
here you go. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I got it. Thanks.
Yeah.
So I sort of don't use the term digital transformation lightly. That's a much used and abused term these days. Digital transformation is everything from setting a mobile app to having end-to-end digital technologies driving a business. But in generally, digital transformation has had a significant effect. These are some numbers, but rather than go through numbers, I'll give you examples of industries where we've seen the impact of digital transformation. Some of these have been repeated ad nauseum, but I'd still like to go back to one or two of those. The first one being Netflix and Blockbuster, and you've heard this over and over, I'm quite sure. But what was different was the ability for Netflix to grab the opportunity that the cloud brought and create an innovative business model around it when they started the streaming service. It started with a simple, Netflix itself started with something simple as how do I make the customer experience better so that they don't have to walk up to a Blockbuster store, pick up something, and then rush back and drop that before a deadline. That was the only thing that they started with. But when they saw this opportunity of cloud and the internet and the reduction in terms of the cost of using the cloud, they latched onto this business model. And I don't know how many of you saw the Emmy nominations this year. Netflix has the highest number of nominations for the first time ever. I mean, they beat out HBO in the number of nominations. That really shows you the power of using the cloud to drive innovation. And from streaming to going to content producing, all as a result of analysis of customer data. That's been the core around which Netflix has built its business on, and it's thriving. There are others who have jumped in now, but since Netflix has been an early leader, they have a clear advantage over the others. You've got Amazon Prime, you've got HBO Now, even in India, you've got Hotstar and Eros and a bunch of others coming into this. But they've got a long way to go to catch up with Netflix. So that really was with regards to an improvement in terms of adding additional customers and retaining customers. A phenomenal job done by Netflix just on using the cloud. We've seen similar examples in the entertainment industry. We've seen these examples in the food industry. McDonald's is one of the early pioneers in this. I don't know how many of you have been to a McDonald's in some of the other countries. They have set up kiosks in areas which are typically busy, so that people don't have to stand in line. It's something as simple as that. Reducing my wait times is drawing customers in. We've seen a number of startups, Uber Eats, for example. Uber is leveraging your data. It is purely your data regarding your travel patterns and other travel patterns to come up with an offering which delivers food. And another example of transforming your business completely based on cloud, but making your data do more innovative things. And obviously, there is a lot more that goes into this with regards to artificial intelligence and ML and analytics within that. But what drives that is the data that Uber has. Most would think of Amazon as a great example, and it is. But for a company a retail organization which has thrived with Amazon being there is Walmart. While others such as Sears and JCPenney and a whole slew of others have either declared bankruptcy or have started to shut stores, Walmart continues to thrive in spite of Amazon. The only reason they and Walmart was able to do that is they recognized the threat of Amazon early on and internally have transformed themselves. The level of customer needs that Walmart understands based on the data that they have is just amazing. Every Walmart store is specifically customized for that particular region simply because of the data that they had gathered through the Walmart cards and everything that customers buy and shopping patterns. They've been able to able to sustain that while others, which were laggards in this area, failed. And again, what was driving this was the advent of the cloud. And Amazon, obviously, they've been pioneers in this space, and some things have succeeded, some have failed. Now they're even trying drones out. We'll see how that pans out. But they clearly are leaders with regards to constantly innovating and building on new things. And Amazon really started with AWS simply because of spare capacity and figure out a business model where they could use that spare capacity, and they really are leaders in the public cloud space. So digital transformation essentially is anything that drives a better outcome for the organization, for the customer, for the employee is digital transformation, and using digital technologies to drive that. But to drive this or accelerate this, cloud and AI are critical to the success of transforming digital transformation, your organization. App innovation using latest technologies. Actually, almost every year you've got something new coming up on the cloud, whether it's, it could be any cloud, whether it's Amazon or IBM or Azure. You will see capabilities on those clouds that were not there a year ago. And we're starting to see that, and that's the only way you can, organizations which leverage some of this are the ones that tend to take advantage of. 2 or 3 years ago, serverless computing was unheard of. Today, serverless computing is there on a couple of most clouds, and organizations are starting to leverage that to innovate. AI and ML models were not heard of 2 or 3 years ago, or were in rudimentary stages. These are available on the cloud now. I can build out fairly sophisticated AI models on what's available on public clouds. For the recent wedding that happened, the royal wedding, they leveraged face recognition technology on the cloud to determine whether this person was allowed to attend the wedding or not as they walked through. Something which would not have been possible 2 years ago. So there's a blend of AI that will disrupt customer service. This digital transformation really is about making the best of multiple clouds. We've seen solutions which have used Amazon, Azure, IBM, or a combination of capabilities from this to deliver applications and to deliver innovation. Using data, there has been some research from Forrester and others that knowledge workers or organizations actually spend almost 80% of their time just searching and preparing data. Not really on actually creating anything innovative. If you could even reduce that by a fraction of 50%, that's a huge help. And which is true. I mean, I've seen organizations where employees spend almost 20 to 25% of the time just trying to find information. If you can push that information to them as opposed to them looking for it, that's a significant increase in just the productivity of the employees. And we've got a number of customers who've come back to us and said, yes, we would want to do something like this, and can you help us along this journey? There are others. IDC has a study out. Almost 75% of commercial enterprises will be using AI. Most CIOs are starting to look at how they can leverage AI or start to pilot AI programs. I know I've personally run pilots in a few organizations on AI. So everybody's sort of trying to dabble and trying to see what sort of works for AI. And we're going to see, I think, growth along these lines, especially with the advent of more sophisticated technologies and models over the next couple of years. Um, this leads us to the challenge of cloud. I mean, complexity is the new norm. Most organizations and most large organizations, and this is actually from a Forbes study, on an average, there are about 6 clouds in each enterprise. The reason for this multiple cloud adoption, well, one is they want to hedge against vendor lock-in. Nobody wants to be locked into an IBM or an Amazon or an AWS. And that's understandable. But also, more importantly, it's about a strategy which draws on multiple sources of expertise from the outside. And that really is what is driving the multi-cloud adoption. And we're also starting to see an increased shift from which was purely public to a public-private hybrid model of cloud adoption. And there are some really big examples around this, and one I can think of is Dropbox. Dropbox was a completely public cloud until about a year or so ago when they decided that wasn't right for them, and they went to a more hybrid model where they hosted more services on-prem, but for some key services which they really couldn't build on-prem, they leveraged a public cloud. And that drove up the revenues, and that was one of the factors that was attributed to Dropbox making a profit, is moving away from the expenses of capital expenses of a public cloud to having something like an operational, sorry, from an OPEX of a public cloud to a CAPEX on their on-prem. And there are studies out there which will actually do a cost-benefit analysis. McKinsey has one of them, where you can have a sort of a timeline that says, okay, if you are on X number of years, you're probably better off having something of a hybrid model as opposed to a purely public model. So when we looked at a split between public and private, and this sort of was expected, most large organizations and organizations with about 1,000 employees or more are skewed towards a private cloud, whereas most SMBs are generally skewed towards a public cloud. What we're also starting to see is the cost of a purely public cloud is starting to hit the CFOs now, because as your data increases, as your hosting increases, the hosting and data charges are starting to hit them now. It's, earlier it was fine when you started this as a pilot and you started this as a small development and then a small production environment. But as you grow, some of these charges start to hit your books. So there is a lot of questions now whether purely public or a multi-cloud strategy wherein I will have a mix of public and private works best. So that's one of the challenges that we see with regards to cloud itself. The second is data. Most organizations, this is a number, there were 33 data sources, and I think that's a small number. I've seen organizations with hundreds of data sources. And one of the challenges that we have is the quality of data within these data sources is often quite poor. And that results in a slow time to insight and missed opportunities. And I've seen a number of these where the quality of data was a reason for missing out on significant opportunities, just because you just didn't have it or didn't have a mechanism to curate the data well. And some of these, this is from a Gartner study where it's about 15 million impact just because of poor data. And 3.7 trillion, that's the planned IT investment for this year. What is contributing to this is artificial intelligence, it's IoT, it's blockchain. These are some of the technologies that are driving this increase in spend. Interestingly, spend on data center for 2018 is predicted to go up a little bit. But for 2019, I think it will probably be the first time where we'll see a decrease in the spend for data centers. That is a significant thing. Where we're starting to see data center costs come down, for probably the first time ever. So moving to the next slide. Uh, we need a cloud with multiple capabilities simply because there's no one size fits all. Every journey is unique, every customer is unique, every application is unique. Within an organization, have different processes. I've I've worked with a number of organizations which are sort of mostly in the business of developing IT services and solutions. And although something as simple as building a Java application, you would think people will be consistent with the methods and processes and tools and skills that are required to build those. They're not. Often within the same organization, two lines of business within the organization will be having different ways of doing the same thing. So you really need a cloud or a partner that would be able to cater to these and be flexible enough to be able to manage this. Now, conventional wisdom is that I'll have a single cloud and a single cloud model would address all of these unique needs. The reality is far from different. No single cloud would address all of these unique challenges in large enterprises. You really need to challenge some of these thoughts around conventional wisdom. And so the data sort of supports this. Almost 81% or 80-odd% of large enterprises are looking at a multi-cloud strategy because a single cloud strategy has not worked for them. They've tried it and they found significant shortcomings in that. And as we saw in the previous charts, we are looking at almost 6 odd, on an average, about 6 clouds in every organization. Now, there's an even split between the clouds as well. So we're looking at almost a 50-50 split, I think, between public and private clouds within these organizations. So as we build out and as standards and new technologies come in, one is you really need to have the ability to have open standards, to support open standards. So technologies such as containers, Kubernetes, which are driving serverless computing. This is what is driving a shift in applications and driving the modernization of applications. We've got a number of clients who've come back to us and who've asked us, how do I move from a monolithic to a microservices-based architecture? How do I move my legacy to a container-based architecture? So we're seeing a lot of these things. So a cloud really should have the flexibility to be able to support this as well as incorporate anything additional that are there. You need to have proven methods around skills, processes, cultures. More often than not, outages are caused by a person sitting in a room as opposed to a hacker outside. And this is really the result of having poor skills or not having the adequate processes in place to support your cloud and infrastructure. And you really need, in today's world, the more you have with regards to industrial models that are out there, with regards to algorithms, to machine learning models, to able to process different types of sources and data, whether it is SQL, NoSQL, structured, unstructured. This really is the ask or the need today with regards to having a cloud or a cloud strategy. We're seeing a shift towards applications becoming borderless. There's a huge push with containers to move apps, when, where, to scale apps on demand. And Kubernetes is a fantastic way to do that. IBM does that on a public cloud or on a hybrid cloud. We've got an entire cloud private setup which is based on Kubernetes that allows you to run applications as containers, to be able to scale on demand, and you've got complete control on those, on your applications. Additionally, you can take IBM Cloud Private and run it at a platform or an environment or a deployment option of your choice. You could run it on-prem, or you could run it on AWS, or you could run that on Azure or on any other cloud of your choice. So that gives you the ability to extend outside your enterprise, to connect outside your enterprise, choose a delivery model of your choice based on your application profile. Additionally, it has systems management built into it. It has security built into it, so that you've got control and access, and you know what's going on with your infrastructure on cloud and IT. Most of the data that we have, and this sort of came as a surprise, but most organizations, the data is actually stored in PDF and PPTs, as opposed to, or Excel sheets, as opposed to legacy or RDBMS or the structured databases. So how do you transform what's in those PDF files or on those PPTs, and how do you make sense of that data and turn that into insights? That's where the support for unstructured data comes in. And more often than not, even within a structured database, the insight is not in the structure of the database, but the insight is in what's entered in the database. An example is if you have, let's say, a defect log of some kind, the insight is not in the structure of a defect log, it's in what's written in the comments within the defect log. So the ability to analyze and gain insights of unstructured data is becoming increasingly apparent. And we've done a number of projects wherein most of those insights really were driven out of unstructured data in PDF files or in Word documents or other such formats of unstructured data. Data governance is actually lacking in a lot of organizations. So data governance is critical for a trusted, and having a trusted foundation or governance or tools around that is important. With the advent of regulations such as GDPR, we're seeing even stronger push for governance and security around personal information. And analytics on or off-prem. Now, AI and ML is something that we talk about often, but more often than not, some of these things have to be in a hybrid model. Most financial institutions will probably not move data onto the cloud and would prefer to have AI or ML models running on-prem. So the ability to create and have machine learning and models running on-prem is becoming more and more as of an ask. And IBM Cloud Private, we've got an offering which is IBM Cloud Private for data, which gives you everything that's required from data ingestion, curation, governance, as well as creation of models around it, and using with application developers having tools around it to build applications over it. So the usage and transformation of data is actually becoming very critical. And your ML models and AI, the output of that, your insight is really as good as your data. From a cloud and AI journey, this was how we've typically started, and most of the cloud journey was around the cost reduction play. But we've seen a shift towards transformation now. Organizations are in various stages from reduction to efficiency to scale. There are a few of them which have in the transformation space as well. But typically, this is what we are seeing with regards to the AI and cloud journey. And data collection is actually a good place to start for most organizations. A lot of the organizations have data in silos, and just integrating data or establishing lineage across the data system itself is a good place to start. That will help drive innovation. Even something as simple as that will help you drive. Well, it's not simple, but that itself will help you drive new solutions and offerings around. And I will share some examples of some organizations who are using this across the spectrum of this particular journey. Uh, so this essentially is how we are looking at the cloud today, for cloud and AI. Uh, there is a focus on cloud native. We're seeing a huge shift towards cloud native. Um, this is essentially for things that you just can't get run on premises. The reason you can't get them running on premises is you don't really have the ability to scale infinitely. I mean, running on a cloud is not really just a hosting a server. It's about having the ability to scale as your applications scale, as your applications grow. Data is constantly increasing, and the only way you can get that out is having a scalable platform. And that's where, from an on-prem perspective, sometimes you run into those challenges of scalability. Cloud native is also about building resiliency in, which is you expect the infrastructure to fail. There is nothing such as a fail-proof or a fail-safe infrastructure. Infrastructure by its very nature will fail. It is a mechanical or an electronic object which at some point is bound to fail. So the ability of building that resiliency in so that it handles those failures, as well as, this is a little I think in the future, but we are looking at self-heal, self-scale, self-grow, self-service systems, and they are not beyond the norm, or something that we should see down the road in a few years' time. Uh, from a cognitive perspective, we really are looking at 4 capabilities which will drive this. So collect, organize, analyze, and think, which is a system that will help you understand, reason, learn, and interact. This is what will help you shape and solve the problems that work with data. This is key to attaining digital intelligence. That's what cognitive systems are, as opposed to analytical systems. Um, the cognitive systems are those that are insights into knowledge, as opposed to just insights into from data. Traditionally, we've looked at rules-based, logic-driven, but cognitive systems are more probabilistic, right? And the ability to build these probability systems on the cloud is something that is the IBM Cloud is rich with. This is a high-level snapshot of how the IBM Cloud has evolved, and whatever you see on this chart is actually available today. The architecture is built so that it supports innovation today, it's tomorrow and beyond. It's an open, flexible architecture. We've got security across the board, whether these are capabilities built in irrespective of your model of cloud that you're using, whether it is private or public or dedicated. We support virtual machines, bare metals, probably the only large vendor that supports bare metals. Programmable mesh networks and flash and spinning storage, and a whole slew of other features, which I'll talk about in a later slide, on building and curating the data to support AI and ML on IoT and blockchain services. We have industry solutions, enterprise applications, and then specialty solutions such as Watson for oncology, weather, and IoT built on top of this architecture. This really is focused on solving your data problems, helping you capitalize on transformative business opportunities that is found in your data. So this is part of a broader vision for addressing our clients' needs and business challenges, and around the cloud and around data. So you can think of this sort of as a crucible where you have different elements in here interacting to create something new. So this is an example of some of the organizations that we work with from an IBM Cloud perspective. I'll touch upon briefly on what we've done for each of them. Northern Trust, really, if you're not familiar with Northern Trust, it's a financial services company. It's an asset and fund management and fiduciary and banking services. There are about 85 states, 18 states, about 20 odd countries. Now, what the challenge that they had was because they are in Europe, the GDPR guidelines hit them, were going to hit them in May of this year. So last year, by December, we had actually completed the entire GDPR assessment and data governance and implementation of the GDPR readiness solution for Northern Trust on the cloud. So that gave them visibility into and control actually of personal data. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with the GDPR regulation, but there are very steep fines, and some of them have been imposed on Google and others, I think, for not handling personal data as per the regulations that have been framed by the EU. So this is Northern Trust's challenge. So we built out. This is built on data governance, control over personal data while strengthening security. Additionally, this also ensured that the right people within the organization had access to the data that was relevant to them. So you had better governance in there and greater insights now from the data that was there from the customers, enabling them of sharpening their rather decision making in customer service. So this is really a story on data collection, getting your data together, and ensuring that rather than sitting in silos, you've got a mechanism to know where your data is and have a governance layer around your data. The second example is USAA, which is the United Services Automobile Association. This is specifically caters to the needs of the military and their families in the US. Therefore, they provide insurance services and other financial services for them. And they had a similar challenges where they had data across multiple silos. So they had a very expensive call center because to support queries, something would be as simple as how do I know, what my benefits are, or how do I claim my veteran benefits. Something as simple as that would require them to go through multiple systems and multiple silos of data to come back with an answer to that query. So we've sort of simplified it. There were around 3,000 odd documents on policies which were fed into Watson. We've provided an natural language interface on the web and on the mobile. You could just log in, ask a question, and you would get an answer back from that interface. So you eliminated a lot of calls getting into the call center. It became a simple query. But additionally, what they found was they were able to take this back to life events of these people. For example, they realized that if you had a customer talking and there was a background, there was a baby crying, that's something that maybe there's been a life event in that particular person's life, and there's something they can do about it, trigger something about it. So analytics out of just listening to the customer and from unstructured information coming in from them. So that was the second example. The third one was Trueta. This is a company which is jointly formed by IBM and MasterCard. This provides a data hosting and anonymization platform which supports GDPR. So for companies that are interested in ensuring that they are GDPR compliant, they can use Trueta and use this for hosting their data, and we ensure that everything is compliant as per the spec. MasterCard is the first customer onboarded onto this, and they are completely compliant on GDPR. The other three are the big ones. American Airlines, they're going through a huge digital transformation on the cloud. They had an acquisition or a merger with US Airways, multiple systems in there, plus their own legacy systems. So we used IBM Cloud. It's a multi-cloud strategy that has been used with them as well. So we used IBM Cloud to move AA.com, the mobile, kiosk, cargo apps. Everything's been moved from the legacy environment to the IBM Cloud, VMware on IaaS, in about 4 months. That's all it took for us to make this move. And we've got them on IBM Cloud Private as well, and we've brought them into our garages to have and build out through a design thinking workshop things that which were originally thought would take over a year, took about 3 to 4 months to build these apps out. Specifically, apps regarding the dynamic rebooking in the event of a weather event. Westpac is similarly going through a digital transformation, and they were looking at a means to save on their IT expenses. They used again IBM Cloud Private. They're one of the big investors in IBM Cloud Private. They moved the core banking applications to IBM Cloud Private. So most banks, or I'm not aware of any bank or large bank that has moved core banking to cloud on the public environment, but most of them are looking at a private environment for their core banking while running analytics or other ancillary or auxiliary solutions on a cloud. That's a strategy that we've seen, and that's what Westpac itself has utilized. So the data that we have from Westpac, they've actually, the development is 3 times faster and 3 times cheaper in a fair, secure environment. The initial target I think Westpac had was about moving 20 apps to Cloud Private, but they had moved 30 by the end of the year. And now they've actually created a hybrid platform as a service strategy wherein they would have the core applications running on private cloud, and they would use public cloud like Amazon or Azure for other capabilities which they find, as I discussed earlier, some things which are better off on a cloud, or some capabilities which are hard to develop in-house, they would leverage that from that as part of the hybrid public cloud strategy. And we're seeing a lot of large organizations moving towards something like a hybrid private cloud strategy. And finally, Hertz. Hertz has acquired Dollar, Thrifty, and a bunch of others. So they actually wanted to go through this whole digital transformation so that you have a seamless interface, irrespective of from a rates interface, at least irrespective of whether using Dollar or Thrifty or Hertz, but the experience is the same. So we had to rewrite some of their core systems using IBM Cloud Private as well, and then leverage some aspects of the public cloud to support those capabilities. What we have from Hertz, just given the size of Hertz, we support close to 1.5 billion hits a day and 30 million updates a day for Hertz on the cloud platform. I mean that's a significant scale, which very few cloud providers actually get. So across the globe, the Hertz is supported of this. So these are just examples of how some of our clients are accelerating the digital transformation while scaling to meet their business requirements using the cloud. So IBM Cloud Flex, I've discussed some of these, but so at a high level, this is what is there. So what you get with IBM, containerized versions of IBM middleware. So our middleware and data repositories, whether you're using on-prem or using on cloud, they are the same. So it's choice with consistency. You can pick WebSphere running on the cloud or WebSphere running on-prem. It's the same. Moving applications become seamless, whether you're on the cloud or you're running it on-prem. We've got a whole range of APIs available that connect across multiple clouds, and you see that in that picture. And we have a Kubernetes-based container platform and a DevOps toolchain which integrates with multitude of products. So IBM relies heavily, I don't know how many of you are aware, but in the private enterprise space, IBM is the largest research organization. And IBM Research Innovation Labs contribute significantly to our products and our product strategy. So you see a lot of inputs coming in as a result of the Research Innovation Labs. We've got deep industry partnerships. We partner with industrial bodies. We have data sets in a number of industries. Now, the difference is we don't use public data to train our cloud. We've never used public data, and we won't, unlike some of our competitors. So our data sets are something that we've got in collaboration with industry bodies. We've got applications built on top of them. Watson for Oncology is a good example of an application which is used. There are a couple of hospitals in India, Manipal and Apollo, which use Watson for cancer detection. And we've got deep industry skills or resources with deep industry skills that help build out and build solutions, innovative solutions onto the cloud. So this is our view of a single view of architecture for the cloud. This is built across 4 dimensions. There's cloud infrastructure, data, AI, and then application services. The Watson data platform is essentially a whole platform. We spoke about this earlier with regards to data and the quality of data. So the Watson data platform that you see here solves the data problem. So just like an infrastructure as a service solves the infrastructure problem, this solves that because this has tools to ingest data, store data, how do we provide analytics over it, deploy data, and then finally govern data. There is a slew of AI cognitive building blocks over that. So you could use this to create discrete applications. And most of our competitors don't really offer this level of customized models that we provide. And I think our voice recognition was rated as amongst the highest. But 6 months ago was when I saw that. It comes nearly as close to a human in terms of recognition of data. Like I said, we never use client data to train another client's AI. We never do that. Our architecture that we have, it's open. It is built for regulatory governance. And we also built it for accelerated AI training. There are tools that we provide which will help you train data, helps and provides you scale across running AI applications. One of the challenges that you have with running models or machine learning models on data is your ability to, one is process them quicker, second is scale as your data increases. So those are capabilities that we have, and then we have applications which are built on top of that. These are some of them: Watson for Oncology, Watson for Cybersecurity, the weather data. I'm not sure how many of you are aware, but the weather data is essentially the largest IoT network, I think, on the planet, just because of the amount of sensors and devices that are spread across the globe, which feed data into the weather service. And there are Watson business applications such as Watson Virtual Agent, Explore and Discover, Risk and Compliance, and so on and so forth. So it's a single IBM, single architecture story built on robust infrastructure, giving you multiple models for deployment, and a mechanism by which you can have data which is, you can ingest it, make sure it's governed, it's compliant, it's encrypted, and no one who's not supposed to access data can access the data. An approach for success, we obviously prescribe, we do have an IBM Garage and a methodology which we would advocate, at least for getting started. The Garage gets you started with addressing a business pain point. It gets you an MVP out, and we can get this out in a fairly short amount of time. And a good example of us, what we did for American Airlines in about 4.5 months is all it took to go from the drawing board to an application that was used to just deployed in production around dynamic rebooking. And that actually did come in handy because they went through the Hurricane Irma at the time at which we had just built this out, and they just switched it on for that, and it worked brilliantly and flawlessly. So essentially, this is what we would from in terms of an architecture and technology, choosing the right architecture and technology for your solution, methodologies for building out, and then governance, security, compliance, among other things. So getting started with IBM, uh, we are built for data and cognitive. We are the cloud and cognitive company. Cloud and cognitive architecture is truly built for scale, and some of the scale for the numbers that I provided on Hertz give an example of the scale that the cloud is built for. Our capabilities in vision, language, speech, emotional, intelligence is amongst the strongest. I don't think there are too many competitors out there with that level of capability. And we've got a fairly simple end-to-end governance and management structure. It is for enterprise flexibility. Security is baked in. It's not an afterthought. When we built this out, it was built with security. So that also addresses all of your deployment methods, not just one form of it. And industry-focused applications, data sets, and expertise. The oncology was one of them. We're working with other industries as well. On blockchain, we're working with Maersk to build out blockchain models and platform to be used within the shipping business. So similar other partnerships, the one you saw with MasterCard earlier. And we give clients choice and control. You have control of your data and knowledge. We don't. We don't train our systems using your data. We are open source and open standards. There has been a perception for a time that IBM is proprietary. We really are not. Our cloud is the most open cloud that you will find out there. Most other enterprise clouds or most of the clouds are built on proprietary tech. We are not. Our cloud is purely Kubernetes container based. We support open source, and we build on open source. And we spread globally. I think we have about 50 odd locations across the globe, if not more. The number would have gone up a little bit for hosting your data. And then IBM Cloud Private is the best in class with regards to hosting or running private cloud on your enterprise or running that on one of the other environments. I'm not sure if Bala is on. If Bala, you're on, you can speak to this. But there is a complimentary consultation today. Bala, you on? Okay, so you can reach out to Bala. That's his ID and his phone number. We would do an analytics and an application modernization migration or an infrastructure. I think there's a free 1-month POC to move VM workloads to the cloud. So you can shut down your VMware on your on-premises farm. We will move all of that, and you can advance. We'll walk you through some of the benefits of using VMware on the IBM cloud. So there's a free 1-month POC for that. We will walk you through an application modernization and migration workshop, applications and at least through the process and insights and steps moving something to the cloud. And then the first one is on consultation on the analytics space. So IBM Cloud Private for data, which I spoke about. How do you get your data AI ready, which is critical. Most people embark on an AI journey without giving thought to data. Your AI is only as good as the data that you have. So it's absolutely critical that you get your data AI ready first before you embark on a journey which says, okay, I'll go build out my ML and AI models and so on and so forth. So take advantage of this. And there's a hybrid cloud consultation. Collect all of the data, get rid of your silos, and have a unified view across your data. So these are available at no charge. You can reach out to Bala, and we'll be more than happy to have this to you. So this, I think, is the last slide. It's secure to the core. IBM is AI ready. It is built for AI. Even on the private cloud, we have ICP for data, which is specifically built for AI. It runs on IBM Power 9 systems, or Power systems rather, and which is specific for the AI for running your deep learning models, and built for all of your applications. Whether it is open source or middleware or any of the cloud native applications, it's run to build and secure those applications. So that, I think, was the last slide that I had. If there are, I think we've got about 5 minutes. If there are any questions, I can address those.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mr. Bhogal. And if there are any questions, Naveen, can we see any questions out there? There are no questions as such. Anyways, if like anybody wants to connect with us, please do let us know. Do let us know at the earliest. On behalf of the Economic Times, I would like to thank all the participants for joining this webinar. And Mr. Bhogal, thank you once again for sharing this thoughtful insights. These were quite enlightening to know that how IBM Cloud is playing an instrumental role and getting AI ready and helping everybody, enterprises and all, to get into the next growth ride. So we hope it has been a useful time spent with us. Once you log off, automatically a window will open to capture your feedback. Okay, if the feedback is not there today. Okay, anyways, so thank you once again, everybody, for joining the Economic Times live webinar powered by IBM. Thank you once again.